the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
And no nation which expects to be the leader of other nations can expect to stay behind in this race for space.
What does it take to convince you that the dead do not always rest in peace?
Welcome to the Three Beards podcast. And in this episode, brought to you by Brock's Beard Care. Go to brocksbeardcare.com, use promo code 3Beards. You're going to save 20% off your order. Free shipping on the Kelly makes amazing products. Check him out. And at this time, we are going to take a nice little journey into the outer realms. And we are going to talk with Joey and Tonya. And I hope I don't mess up. Is it Madia?
Madia.
Oh, I knew I was going to screw it up.
Close.
That's where everybody says Madia. So
I know. I had a 50-50 shot and I blew it. All right.
Nah, you're good.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah. So, kind of a common theme. Mark Eddy, mentioned, a friend of mine, he had mentioned you guys to it. And he had shared your guys' show, and I happened to watch that one, and I really, really enjoyed the way you guys do your program. I really like it.
Thank you.
For me, it was, you were talking about ghost hunting. And the one that you didn't want to touch on, because my comment was, it's just like, I'm not a fan of Zach Bagans.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not going to say any names. I'm like, I'm okay with saying a name just because I'm not slamming him. I'm just me personally, it's that saying, I think you guys said it too, garbage in, garbage out. Mm-hmm. If what you're going to get, and I think it's kind of the fun, everybody's, the sayings about it's fake, all the stuff to the side. When you go into a place and say, I want you to use my energy, come visit me, come and, go to Aaron, do this, and then all of a sudden you hear something, you're like, oh my God, and you go running off. You're like, what did you think was going to happen?
Right.
You asked them to torture you. You said, do things to me, and then you're freaking out that something's happening to you. I'm like,
yep.
And then, and on the other spectrum, you guys didn't really touch on it. I didn't have a chance to ask you. Do you guys know who Huff is? He has Huff Paranormal. He does the
Yes.
He does the boxes.
Yep.
There's controversy on him on whether or not that's fake.
Right.
Because some YouTube videos, there's a guy that went through and he showed how you can upload stuff into it, and through different techniques you can make these reactions. But I don't know. There's sometimes I watch it. And it's, I feel a connection to, some of the stuff he talks about, but then after watching that, I'm like, I don't know. So it's kind of goes, and then you guys come in, and I really liked the way you guys presented it, because you're coming at it from, it's not, I want something out of you. I'm trying to figure out what's going on, where are these in these places, just you're trying to become one with the environment, a welcoming, it's inclusive, this is all, I'm not trying to, exploit you. I'm trying to help you either cross over, get your message out. And that's what I really loved about you guys, the way that
Thank you.
Thank you.
That. And so, what got you guys involved? That's the big thing. What was the part that you just decided, I want to do this?
Well, it was kind of for me, a lifelong, I've been a lifelong experiencer. My grandmother was a psychic medium. So I was around, we were talking earlier about Ouija boards. I was around Ouija boards from the time I was tiny. I wasn't allowed to use them then, but I watched my grandmother use them. And so I was kind of exposed to metaphysical things for my whole life, and I had experiences, but I never really knew, my dad's very cynical. And so everything that I would experience, he would dismiss as my imagination. And so up until The experience that Joey and I had, which I'm sure we'll talk about, in Point Pleasant, West Virginia 11 years ago, I really didn't know what to do with any of my experiences. And, like I say, I had many, but either dismissed them as my imagination or just kind of scratched my head and didn't know what to make of it. But we had that experience and got to meet some really amazing professional people in the paranormal world. And that kind of got us on the track.
Well, since you talked about it real quick, here, I'll bring up, why is it doing that? Anyway, there's a picture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm going to open the image in another tab, and we're going to try this again here.
For the longest time, our Wednesday shows, conspiracy and like paranormal, always messed up for whatever reason. Could never figure it out.
Our Friday show for 2 months was super active. We had a portal that was opened up in our house that we had to close, and we'd be trying to do the show, and they're like, "There's something knocking the shelf off behind you, and there's a woman with a burned face over there." And yeah, so weird. Yeah, or a guest would want to tell something really important, and suddenly there'd be a glitch, and they'd get all pixelated. And so amongst our audience on Into the Outer Realms, they feel like, they don't want to get the information out or this or that, or so I don't know, but it's all electricity here. It's all, it's all frequency, so they can certainly play with it. So 11 years ago, we got this down. We're going to be part of a project they're doing about the Mothman. We didn't see the Mothman, but we got this down to 2 minutes. So let's see if we can but we moved to West Virginia. We love the Mothman Prophecies movie with Richard Gere and Laura Linney, just as a movie. I'm a filmmaker and writer, and it's a brilliant movie. And so Tonya called me one day and said, "We're only 3 hours away from the Mothman Museum." And I said, "I cannot imagine driving 3 hours to go to a museum about something called the Mothman." So it was about a year later, right?
It took me a year to convince them that we really needed to go.
Let's just go. And the town is idyllic. If you've never been there, it's right on the Ohio and the Kanawha rivers. It's like stuck in time. It's amazing. Long story short, if you drive about 15 minutes down Route 62, you get to the McClintock Wildlife Management Area, otherwise known as the TNT area. So during World War II, there was a TNT manufacturing plant. The North plant, I believe, right, was where they saw the Mothman. Mm-hmm. And there's these cool concrete igloos. You might be able to find pictures of them online if you put like Point Pleasant igloos or TNT area, something like that. They're just really cool, and we wanted to check them out. So we go down there, and it's a beautiful, idyllic day, right? Blue skies. Yeah. The water, but there's no wildlife and there's no sound, and we feel like we're being watched. And so we last a couple minutes. Now we've been in those igloos and even further deeper down to other igloos many, many, many times in the past 11 years. But that day we couldn't even get inside. It was like taking your arm with a camera, snapping a few shots and running away, like just frightened. And we couldn't process the dichotomy between how beautiful and peaceful it was and how we felt like we could die at any minute. Like there were just like 1,000 eyes on us.
It was talk about the Twilight Zone.
So we get in the car and we start driving back, and you want to pick up?
Yeah. So I think it's important to say we had left downtown Point Pleasant at 2:30 in the afternoon. It takes no more than 15, at the very most 15 minutes to get from downtown Point Pleasant to the TNT area. It probably takes less. It's probably more like 10, but to be generous, we'll say 15. So we get out there. We felt really strange. We felt like, like Joey said, we were being watched. We couldn't have been there more than 15 minutes. We get in the car. We drive straight back to town, which would be another 15 minutes. So keep that in mind. So tops, we had to be gone maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, about.
So we're heading back on 62, and we start talking. And I said, it was kind of weird how, it felt like we were being watched, and, it was a beautiful sunny day in a gorgeous area, but we felt so weird. And all of a sudden, from the left side of the road, like right from the berm, and there was a cornfield there, this figure just leapt in a single bound across both lanes of the road, this grayish sort of figure. I thought it moved like a deer. Didn't look anything like a deer, but just sort of the way a deer will leap, that's kind of how it moved. And in a single bound, ended on the berm on the right side of the road on the edge of another cornfield and just vanished into thin air. And it happened so quickly that we would have dismissed it, but we both turned to each other and said,
Did you just see that?
And
11 years we've been telling this story. So. But that's exactly how it happened. Otherwise, we probably would have just missed it. And it was such a blue sky. And I just saw this black figure up, gone, boom, like that. So we're, what the hell? So this is very weird. I say to Tonya, although it may make more sense now after the regression, but I said to Tonya, don't tell me what you saw, and I won't tell you what I saw. We will go somewhere and draw what we saw. So we go to a restaurant, and that's the two illustrations that you have.
The two sketches.
Yeah, bring it back up here.
Which are virtually identical.
Yep.
Wow.
Which is real in and of itself is really strange, because one of the things about eyewitness reports is that they're rarely exactly the same thing that two different people saw. But for us to draw pretty much exactly the same thing, we just thought that was really odd.
And because of the way I drew it 11 years ago, I always said it looks like a man in a neoprene black wetsuit, black neoprene, being fired out of a cannon with his arms at his sides. Turns out that's not what we saw, but that's how my mind remembered. I think because it happened so fast and I saw the black in the blue. So we get back to town and it's 2.5 hours later.
Right. So we went back to the shop where the shop owner had drawn us a map to get to the TNT, told us where we should go, take photos and everything like that. And like I said, we had left his shop at 2:30. Couldn't have been gone more than 45 minutes. When we got back to his shop, we were really confused because it was all closed up. And we're looking in the windows and we're kind of knocking on the door. We thought, well, maybe he stepped away for a minute. And we look and it's after 5. So he had closed the shop because it was time to close the shop. He, luckily for us, was in the back of the store and came and opened the door. So we were able to share with him what happened. And that's when he then put us in contact with John and Tim Frick, Steve Ward, who put us in touch with Steve Ward and Rosemary Ellen Guiley.
You're missing about 2 hours then, Jesus.
Yeah, a little more than that. And then on the way back, I remembered a gas station. I remembered the colorful flags around the gas station. There is no gas station. And when we went back with these researchers, and at the time, even though we had lived in a couple haunted houses, we had sort of experienced portals. We were passengers. We were passive and things were coming at us. So they say, yeah, we're real interested. We want to retrace it and all of that. And where we saw the cornfield on the left side of the road, we saw it in our mind's eye anyway, but it's not in our pictures, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. There's a house there that's have been there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, there was no cornfield there, but weirdly, we both remembered one being there.
And no gas station. And we're like, well, how the hell did it take us so long to drive? And then it sort of passed into the annals of legend of Point Pleasant and set us on our path and all of that. But then people kept asking us, as we got more established and, the hosts are wiser and you talk to more people, they said, have you ever been regressed to try to figure out what happened in those 2 hours? We said, no, we never thought of it and this and that. So the opportunity came up and I did it Saturday. And it's about between the induction and getting me out of it, it's 40 minutes. And we have some audio that we sent off to sort of be analyzed by some people about this kind of thing. But it was wild. I mean, if we're going to talk about the classic abduction cases tonight, I can say firsthand that when you're in that state, it just starts to come back to you. And it was just all unfolding, developing in front of me, right? And at some point, so what I think happened was the thing that we saw over the road was near the igloos. It may hang out there. There's all kinds of legends that they're Indian burial grounds. There's all kinds of spirits. We've seen shadow figures down there a couple of times. And I think that it was curious that we noticed it, that we could sense it, even though we couldn't see it. So it seems like it made its way deeper in the woods, and kind of, as I explained it during the regression, I felt like it was doing a phase 2. Okay, well, I'm going to show myself to them and see what happens. So now it goes out over the road. It's not random. Now we know it's planned, and we see it. So then they're like, well, what the heck? It can see us too. Let's really see what we could do. And then, as I described, and it just gets so weird. Maybe to me, it's weirder than I saw a spaceship and I went up inside and I was on an operating table. The car kind of lifted off the ground a little and began to spin. Now, I don't think this was physical, but I think this was maybe our perception of it. And it began to spin almost like with centrifugal force that put us into a parallel dimension, which is what investigators and other people had thought. Well, you shifted into another dimension where the gas station was there and all that. And that's true, except it was some kind of perception test. Because they showed me this barn, and it was like something, the whole thing felt like it was out of The Wizard of Oz. There was no way that this barn was real. The ground was pristine, but there were no animals anywhere. But there's this beautiful red barn with white trim. The barn is 2 stories. And then all of a sudden, this like silver, like grain or dairy, probably dairy silo appears behind it. So they're like adding features. And I mentioned to you guys before the show off camera that I developed a couple of kidney stones. And I had several procedures, and they could never knock me out enough because I have this incredible curiosity. I mean, that's why we do what we do, and we do it the way we do. I just want to know what's going on. So if I have to be polite, if I have to be respectful, if I can forge some kind of partnership with the other side, then we're going to get some answers, and that's a good thing. So I'm questioning it. I'm going, come on, this isn't real. This isn't real. And so what I see is they were behind me, and they sort of reached around, and I just saw 3 very long black fingers with like bulbs at the end.
Wow.
Almost like, when you're a little kid and you put olives at the end of your fingers. Mm-hmm. Do you ever do that, black olives?
Yep.
So it kind of looked like that. So I couldn't see what they look like. And Tonya's out of frame. And they're trying to get me to concentrate on this barn. And I just won't go for it. I'm going, guys, it's like being on a set. I do movies and stuff. It's like being on a set. So they go, okay, let's go. Let's just go for a walk. Let's go for a walk. And they're frustrated. And we walk down this path, and it's got this split rail fence and these beautiful flowers and greenery, and I'm going, you're gonna have to do better than this. I just don't. And they're going, it's not a good candidate. That's what I keep hearing. And on the tape, you just hear me repeating that. Not a good candidate. He remembers everything. Not a good candidate. Not a good candidate. And finally, they put me back in the car, but it's like Wonder Woman's airplane. So I'm watching the transmission go, and I'm seeing the road underneath. Like, I had a buddy in college who had an old Volkswagen Beetle, and the floorboards were famous for rotting out of them.
Oh, yeah.
So we could watch the drivetrain like as we drove around in college. And it was kind of like that. And then it started to get more and more solid. And then I recognized what was in front of us, and it got more and more solid, and we were where we were supposed to be. But the gas station is called Sonny's Gas Station. And I think that was a prop too. Now I know I'm going on. I'm gonna button up in just a second. So there was a guy named Juan Perez. Do you know about Juan Perez's abduction? It was in Argentina, 1970s. So Jacques Vallée got involved in that, and Vallée said they pull things from your memory and your mind that they can use to kind of create a show for you. So these things were a show that they were trying to create for me. I think because, and Tonya's going to have to undergo the regression herself, but I think they were trying to keep me busy because she was a much better candidate. And So the last thing was this Sonny's Garage. When I was in middle school, I wanted to be an auto mechanic. That's what I wanted to do with my life. I loved cars. I loved working on cars, being under cars with my dad. And I took some kind of aptitude test, and they called this meeting, and they said, that's not for you. You're a smart kid. You're supposed to go to college. And that was the end of my dream. But I think the idea of always having a garage was always really solid in my mind, that, you know, sometimes I'll kind of drift away and go, yeah, you know, I could picture my hands being all, you know, knuckle busted, maybe in a parallel universe.
Possibly.
But I will shut up now. Sorry, but that's the whole story.
No. Well, I was kind of goes along the way when we were going to talk about the regression therapy is one. Like a lot of people are bringing these up, and I'm wondering if, you know, because we've got stories, you know, are they military, you know, people that are abducting, you know, is it an entity, you know, there's also the theory that these are more of constructs, like something that's more of AI, that it might be alien, but what it is we don't have the actual alien. Because one of the things, if everybody's seen the classic picture of the Gray, I've always had a question: how's that thing's head staying up like that? It's got this little pencil neck, and it's got this gigantic head. I mean, it should just be
Great question.
just falling over. But if it's not an actual human, you know, if it's does not physiologically, I mean, if this is something that is more machine, artificial, well, yeah, you're not going to have muscle structure. I mean, it's going to stay. I mean, but where I was going with that is, so these things, obviously, they don't have the ability like you and me to communicate. So I think that's where the telepathic stuff comes in. And what they're doing is, I'm trying to explain something to you. Well, I've got to find a way to connect with you. So that's where Sonny's Garage, a barn, it's going to do these things and trying to get you like kind of hieroglyphics, cartouche is trying to lay out a picture thing that you're supposed to look around and try to decipher where you're at. And I think that's where a lot of people get some of these things like, yeah, I was floating over a field, or, they do these things. I don't know if they were literally being carried and floated over a field. I think it was probably something like, in your childhood, you loved being out at grandpa's farm, going through the field. And that's what they're trying to show you as, maybe like, it's going to be okay, but then you get into the whole thing, all right, seriously, why you got to kidnap me? I mean, come on.
So when you said that they kept saying, not a good candidate, not a good candidate, do you think they were trying to keep you and they didn't feel you were a good candidate? Or what do you feel in the transgression why they kept saying, not a good candidate, not a good candidate?
Because I think that they wanted to experiment, but I have a darn near photographic memory. So, like, I can think back to something, I know exactly where I was, the smells, the sounds, and I think that's what it was, that they were curious because we sensed them, and then we saw them, so we had this ability. And I think they wanted to see, because not everyone can do that, but I don't think they wanted to keep, but maybe would have taken more times. And I don't think I've ever been taken again. I don't think the same is true for you, though. Do you? You have a sense that you do.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wondered. I have some of the, I always could joke, I'll wake up and I'll have like finger marks that are unexplained, or what's that?
I said finger marks. I wake up and I got finger marks on me. I'm moving. I'm gone.
Yeah.
They follow. 9 times out of 10, they follow you. I mean, we've just wrote a whole book on haunted places we've lived. They're just there waiting, like, oh, you made it. Great.
Finally,
this State Farm. What is it? State Farm? Yeah, my house burned down. It's gone.
Yeah, I burned them down.
Yeah.
And the ground sown with salt.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You guys have that movie exactly.
My all-time favorite novel, The Haunting of Hill House. We love the movie.
But you kind of do feel like you're a good candidate.
I mean, I've never thought for sure, like, oh yeah, I think that I might be an abductee. Definitely a contactee in a different way, which we can talk about. But I joke. I'm like, oh yeah, the aliens. We're back again, or I might have I have a couple of places on my body that it just feels like there's possibly an implant there, and so I don't know what it is. I don't know where I would go and find out. But unfortunately, was it Dr. Lear who
Yeah,
used to
Dr.
do
Roger
the,
Lear. Yeah, he passed
unfortunately,
away.
he's passed, or I might reach out to him. But I always just kind of joke, oh, yeah, there's a new implant or whatever. But I've never really said with surety that I think that I am. But so I think Joey was wondering maybe I have been or, all along or maybe since then, so that I would be a good candidate for multiple trips into a parallel dimension or something.
Well, that's kind of the thing, with alien abductions. I don't know if I personally believe, this is a craft from, a nearby galaxy that's come over here. Because a lot of the stuff, you think about, you see the History Channel, Ancient Aliens, you see a lot of stuff, and I'm like, I can't go for the fact that a civilization would travel that far across the universe, come to us, and the thing they're going to do is they're going to design, a pyramid so they can land their ship on top of it, or they're going to do, they came all this way over to abduct me and shove a needle in my belly button because they want to find out, what's going on. I'd like, we're more likely, like you said, where we talked about, where if it's another dimension, another parallel thing, what they're doing is, this would explain some of the stuff where they said they look like us. This could be the thing where they found here, and what they're doing, experimenting, is they're trying to figure out, are we identical? Are they, is in that's. I was going to curious what you guys thought about it, because that, to me, that would make a lot more sense for all of the research, because basically, like the cattle mutilations. Why do you have to keep killing cattle? It's the same. After the first one, you already know what the cow's made of, so why do we keep butchering cows? But if it's from other places, they're like, whoa, what is this, weird thing that walks around on the ground mooing? I've never seen this thing before. Boom, they come in. We got to check it out. Well, then another from another area comes in. So what do you guys mean? Do you think anything like that might be a possibility?
I kind of come from the Chris Carter X-Files school, where you can check a lot of boxes with all these things. So I do think cattle mutes, I think there is sort of a government operation to check the health of these cattle about things like mad cow, things like that. Chris O'Brien did a lot of work. His book, Stalking the Herd, is like a Bible. And at the end, he sort of says, I think this is why dementia, why Alzheimer's, we sort of have this rampant, we don't know where our beef is coming from. The plants are on foreign places. So I think that might be it. Some of the weird things, though, about them getting lifted up or teleported, we had a weird experience. Sometimes it's weird, what newbies we can be. We had 3 acres in a hollow in West Virginia. There was a portal. One night we wake up. It was very hard to get to, and very steep to get to our house. We wake up one night and we hear a cow mooing. We're like, what the hell is going on? We go out on the front deck, and there's literally a cow walking across our front yard. And so at that point, I was into Twin Peaks and all kinds of stuff. And I'm looking up Hathor and ancient Egypt and looking for this very literal interpretation of, if a cow should cross your path, what is the symbolic mythological meaning in your life?
I do that too. Wow, you see a sign more than once and you're like, well, what does this mean? Let me Google it. Let me look it up.
Right. And we still do that in Animal Speak by Ted Williams. And Ted Andrews is well worn on our bookshelf. We use it all the time. But it was just the other day we're going, wait a minute. What if that cow, because where the heck did it go? And none of our neighbors talked about it.
Where did it come from?
And if you looked at the gravelly roads and the hills and the hollows and where the heck did it come from? So I think maybe that, but I definitely think, Craig, that you're onto something with they're from parallel dimensions, and they're close enough to us that they're trying to figure out what are the mechanisms. And for me, they were testing things because I've been on movie sets. I'm an actor, and I've been on different kinds of sets, and of course, Sonny's Garage. I talked about that. It was all very correlative, and they were so disappointed that I wasn't passing the test, that I wouldn't just ignore it and buy into what they were showing me. That's really what they wanted me to do, and I just don't have it in me. And yet Tonya wasn't there. She was off, and we'll have to decode that. So
yeah, that's and that's kind of where the another thing too. It's just where you got both of you in the same location, and there's a chance that both of you had completely different experiences at that point, where she's going to be like, I saw a barn. There's no barn. I saw sand. It was a beach. It could be a completely different, almost kind of the Jodie Foster movie.
Contact.
Yeah. Where you go through there and all of a sudden, boom, she's on a beach. And it comes to her as her father. Talking to her. And that's kind of what where you were describing. I'm glad I thought, because that kind of describes what I'm thinking. It's just where they're taking information from you. And that would, in a way, would kind of be a great way to explain, like, the lost time, because when people are watching, just boom, the thing just fell through the rings. Where you're like, yeah, we just got it. Well, what about the other 90 minutes of tape? Because there was time, and there's something occurs, and we could kind of segue from what you guys did too into coming famous ones. Because that, for anybody that's never listened to it, you've got to listen to Betty Hill's, tape. That one, because anybody that says, well, I don't really believe the story, let's go through it here. This is an interracial couple in the 1960s. The last thing you want to do is bring any attention to yourself. Exactly. People already hate you for being a white woman and a black guy in a marriage. This is unacceptable in society. There's people that don't like you for this, and now you're coming around talking about aliens, being abducted, and people are, why would you bring this attention on yourself and that's why I've always, for me, that's been one of the, like, for me, a benchmark where I've always just looked, just society-wise, there has to be something that really occurred for them to have risked this kind of exposure. I mean, Project Blue Book, have you guys watched that on History Channel?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were bummed that it got canceled.
Yeah, well, it's coming back.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, they're gonna. I think it's. I don't know if it's Netflix or somebody else. They're bringing it back. They're gonna be bringing it back.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's Netflix.
Yeah, so they're gonna bring back. So I was like, I'm hoping it still.
Yeah.
It was in they. Because they touched on an episode of that. They had that interracial couple that came in and taught. And so it was Barney and Betty Hill.
Yep.
And one of those, when you listen to her description of that, as she's, it's kind of like you said, we're here in the car. I don't want to get out of the car. And the guys are convinced, it's okay. And, they're taking her to the object. I don't want to go on there. I'm scared. And she just goes through the whole description, and then here's this, 60s. We're talking modesty. She's talking about, they took my dress off.
Yeah.
And they're shoving this is the longest needle I've ever seen. They're wanting to shove this in my navel, for a pregnancy test, and that's kind of where, like, you see some of these things. It's one, just for a technologically advanced, species, why are we shoving needles?
Yeah.
They should have, like, the Star Trek, they can make invisible walls. They can't just scan me. Like I said, they got to shove this gigantic. And that's where I'm thinking more of, like, there might be something government based behind it, because that seems more of our technology. We got to shove something in you to extract, or from another dimension parallel, bringing it in. Because other than that, that's the only thing I could figure out. Like, what's the purpose of shoving that in? And then you guys watch that movie. I told you it was intense. Fire in the Sky.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's on the table. It's that kind of stuff. And it's just that scene, for me, really cements a lot of, like, here's some of the abduction claims. So, like, I'm there, I'm freaking out, the stuff they're doing to me, and Fire in the Sky kind of really brought that to thing. And then when he's going through the regression therapy too, some of those were pretty intense, because the way freaking out about the different stuff that he brings up. Communion was the same way when he went through regression, because that's. Who doesn't love, the classic,
right.
appearing behind and so, But yeah, what do you guys? What are your thoughts on?
I really do think that at least some of the experiences are more travelers from a parallel dimension, like we talked about earlier. And I definitely think that some of this, like you said, is government, because exactly why are they using needles? And if they're telepathic, why do they need to even, they should be able to just know whether or not you're carrying a child or not. You know what I mean? They wouldn't even need the technology to a needle or any other kind of technology. They would just know it if they had that kind of telepathic ability. So I think it's like Joey said with the X-Files, it's a little bit of a lot of different things.
Yeah,
Which is what makes it such a Pandora's box of strangeness.
yeah.
So what experiments would you think the military would be trying to accomplish by doing that?
Well, you brought it up, lady.
I mean, without knowing, what the agenda would be, it would be hard to say, but it could be anything from like genetic experiments. It could be just psychological experiments. If they had some kind of technology where they just want to see how to, like maybe a lot of it. I think there's an episode actually of the X-Files where a lot of what's happening is a hallucination. So Mulder is seeing gray aliens, but it's actually like guys in Air Force uniforms or something. So if
Jose
they have
Chunks from Outer Space.
Oh yeah, Jose Chunks.
Classic,
so that's a great
classic
episode.
So it gets really, really complicated for me because I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole more and more of that. The Nazis were kind of onto something. It's Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons may have opened up these space-time rifts. These things may have come through. I think certainly Bikini Atoll and sort of the whole David Lynch thing of when we exploded that atom bomb, it sent a signature out into the universe going, oh crap, now they have that. We have to go check that out. And I do believe, since we're going all this way, I'm kind of the mind now that Eisenhower signed this Greada treaty that he did. Maybe there's something to Dulce base in all of this. So some of these experiments could be prepping people, testing the psychological tests. I mean, because you have everybody from Rand to the CIA to the DIA to the Naval, Research Lab and Office of Naval Research testing all this weird stuff. And even Stanford Research Institute and the CIA, when they combined in the 70s for the remote viewing program, when the Defense Intelligence Agency got involved, they actually had some remote viewers looking at UFO crash sites. So I think there is that component. Mm-hmm. And then from there, it's like, well, because let's face it, right? The military industrial intelligence complex says, how can we use this? How can we use this for war? How can we use this for control? How can we use this for order? There's a really interesting thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Do you know Rendlesham Forest, the sighting in the 1980s? It's an American military base in England.
Yeah.
It was the one where they saw the lights and they have audio and they touched the ship. And then the guy got the download of the binary code and all that. Well, Nick Redfern, top-notch investigator, very well known, he says that he thinks that maybe that was a holographic / airborne hallucinogenic experiment. The really interesting thing is Calvin Parker, right, which is 73, 74, Pascagoula, Missouri. 10 miles from there is Horn Island, which was a biological, chemical, hallucinogenic lab partnered with Camp Dietrich. So you go, wow, is that just a coincidence that this seminal case? So it gets so complicated, right? We just don't know, and they don't want us to, I don't think.
And I was it's going to segue a little bit, this is actually perfect, your guys' episode. I was just watching a little bit today. You guys kind of brought up the experimentation of where you mentioned Stranger Things It might actually be just, this is, let's, Hollywood's version of get it out there, get people prepared. Because you talk about you guys being in Arizona, you should know about the nuclear laboratory down there. It's the one where Bob Lazar worked prior to, and Los Alamos.
Yeah.
There's rumors that type of experimentation is going on then and now in places like that. And that's because I don't know, Austin or Chris remember this, but you have, I want to say, was it 2 years ago, or it might have been a little longer. Remember where they said that there was a computer with child porn on it, and they shut down the entire lab? They blocked it off. No. They completely shut down the entire thing. What the theory is, something happened.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that they said, oh, there was a computer with child porn, and they completely everything just dismantled, and you heard no more about it.
Because it was kind of, there was a few things that happened in sequence, and there was that theory that an accident occurred. It could have been Stranger Things. Demogorgon got out. I mean, something occurred. And that's where, kind of like for me, where I'm more, my thing with UFOs is, what if some of these experimentations, because one of the rumors, like you brought up Bikini Atoll, is that the reason that was a test site is we weren't just firing on this sandbar because we just want, it was a cool sandbar and it was a great target place. There was something that was trying to be taken out.
Wow.
That there was something there, it hit, it didn't do it, and, it was basically, let's, obliterate it, to where it's like, we're going to make it and we're going to ensure that nothing will survive. Because it just, of all the stuff, like you've got Nevada. So, I mean, what's the purpose of something out in the middle of the ocean? Right. You can keep exploding it, but you can go down the rabbit hole of why a lot of things are done. I mean, it could just be as simple as it was difficulty of a target.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of, gosh, I can't remember exactly when it was, maybe 2010, around there, maybe 2012. They bombed the moon. Seriously?
Looking for water particles?
What?
I know. God, what was it? There was one, I remember they talked about it, and there were some of the plans, like back in the later times, like right after the war, there's even plans of like trying to, their thoughts of just basically like scorching the sky. When we were supposedly going to go through like global cooling, they had all these plans of, they're doing something. One of those was, like I said, was to blow up the moon.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
But,
right.
Yeah. You have all these things. You're like, who even thought of these plans? Mm-hmm. This is ridiculous. You could go through it. I'll try to find those and send people. Maybe we'll have you guys on. We'll do an episode about all the crazy things that they came up for.
Oh yeah.
But
so, you go through these, the one like Fire in the Sky was off, name's failing me. I can't find it on my notes here, but this was an actual case of I believe it was 6 guys. They just got off. Were done with work. They took off.
Oh yeah.
And
Travis Walton.
Yeah. And they see a light, and here the part for me that I always get on these stories is, I don't know about you guys. I'm driving down somewhere where I'm not really familiar with my surroundings. I see lights in the trees. Mm-hmm. The first thought of my mind is not to get out of my vehicle, go walking through the woods, and go over and figure out what's in the lights. I'm going to be over to, buddy, like I said, if we're riding in the car together, I'm going to talk, Joey, you see those lights? Yeah. Should we go over there? Are you crazy? No.
I'm going to be like, Craig, let's go.
But then you have somebody like Austin in the back, like, oh hell, I'll check it out, and he goes running off into the woods, and then we're going back to town. It's like, did you guys kill him? No, he's just gone. Weird. We're like, well, why did you let him go? He wanted to go explore, and all of a sudden the light came down, took him off. You go through this story, and the guys were like, that was the part that was the weirdest for me, is the fact that they took off and abandoned him. I mean, at that point, Austin gets, I'm going to go out, we got to find it, figure out what happened to him. Not, well, 5 days later, oh my God, dude, where have you been? Work's getting ready to fire you.
And if you said this, I apologize, but they did go back. They don't specify when, but I think it was within 10, 15 minutes they kind of got their crap together.
Yeah, I didn't say that part. No, you're right.
But I think so. So you got 6 guys, right? 6, and one of them gets out of the truck. Now I would have been that guy.
Yeah, and
not because I'm macho, and I like when we watch these shows and the guy goes, I was Army recon, so nothing scares me, but that ghost scared me. No, I'm just a regular dude, but I have this crazy curiosity to know, and we spent 2 years, 150 hours investigating this very haunted library in North Carolina, which had some portals where some really serious interdimensional shadow beings, people saw skeletal things walking on the wall. One woman jumped in my arms one Halloween night because she saw a ghoul or a wraith. And I was always the one who wanted to go down that hallway and figure out what the heck was going on. Now, our daughter, who just turned 21, she's also a psychic medium. She could see these things. I can't see them. I'm hearing them on the box. The equipment's going off. My solar plexus is lighting up. But I'm like, man, I'm hearing them describing it, and I want to know. I want to see if we can make contact. I want to figure out what's going on. And there were times that she boycotted for like 2 weeks. She's like, you know what, Dad? You're crazy. There was a guy who was trying to pull his face off and like moons the scream, and you're walking toward it, and I don't want to handle that. So Travis being that one guy out of 6, I would be that one guy
out of the
6 that I wouldn't even be able to control myself. I would just be like, okay, what is that blue light? And I'm going to go towards it, right? There were nights like that where you were like, please don't.
Yeah, because like our daughter, I could see the things too, and he just wouldn't listen. I'd be like, don't go down there.
Yeah.
And no, so he would.
We had a mental hospital here in Central Florida. We're in Central Florida. As a kid, we used to go there, and it was completely abandoned, and we would like hear chains rattling. I mean, I couldn't hear people. I mean, I guess because I'm not a medium, but we could hear like chains rattling. And some of my friends were like, they heard people saying, get me out of here, let me go. But I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I could never hear it, but we always used to go there. It used to be fascinating. And when we come home, we would have like this different aura. Like we would just feel different.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now we don't go to, right? And that's in deference to you, but we don't go to abandoned hospitals. We get invited all the time.
Right.
There's one that we went to in West Virginia. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep, we talked about that one.
Yeah, weird stuff happened to us there. I watched a cigar. We were, believe it or not, we were the house theater company there for 2 years. So we were there in a makeshift backstage getting ready to perform, and this cigar rolled off the table and snapped in half in midair as it fell to the ground. And you, tell them what happened to you.
So his theater company was performing, and I was in what was the backstage area, but it was really a wing of the hospital.
Yeah.
It was like the wing that they didn't let the public explore because it's where most of the activity, not most, but really intense activity happened there. So I wandered off by myself while they were performing. And because I am a psychic medium, I could see the patients like shuffling around, and that didn't surprise me at all. And I didn't feel, it was almost like residual. So it didn't feel intelligent to me. So I wasn't terribly afraid of that, but it was starting to get dark, and it's a huge hospital. So I was starting to feel a little freaked out. So when I started walking back toward where I started, I had this stabbing pain, like right in the corner of my eye, exactly where they used to go in to do the lobotomies with the ice picks. So I had this stabbing pain, and it would not go away. I'm also a Reiki master, so I had to do Reiki for a while just to get the pain to go away. And I kind of joked that I think I just got a lobotomy from a ghost. And later we were watching, I think it was several months later, we were watching.
It was either Paranormal State, Ghost Station, something, one of
Yeah, I
those.
think it was maybe Paranormal State. It doesn't matter. One of the crews had gone in, and one of their crew had exactly the same thing happen with the sharp stabbing pain in the eye, and they managed to get an EVP. And they said, "Did you just give me a lobotomy?" And they got a yes on the EVP. So. But Chris, after we left there that night, I know exactly what you mean about feeling weird, having a different kind of aura. Like I felt like I was drugged. I literally felt like I was over medicated or something after we left there.
That is a crazy feeling. Like you just get home and you just feel like, oh.
I know. I was looking at my notes because, like I said, we covered that asylum, and that was one of the things. Like I said, especially as for you guys, with how sensitive you are to those things, I can imagine just how overwhelming that place would have been for you, because through its history, Walter Freeman performed over 4,000 lobotomies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, and that method wasn't something like as simple. I mean, a lot of them was the ice pick in there with a hammer, pow.
Yep.
So we're talking violent, interactions with these people. Sometimes, and a lot of these patients died.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could see, especially what you said, where you're feeling the sensitivity to these things. I mean, you're potentially, this is dangling somebody who is, basically a target in front of possibly hundreds, if not even thousands of potential souls that are looking for somebody either to enact revenge or, I just want my story to, that I could see how that could overwhelm you. I mean, I could see where you'd feel drained.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely did. So I don't go to places anymore like asylums, prisons. We did go to Moundsville. I didn't go inside the prison. I could even see some of the inmates looking out from the prison. I had no interest in going in there. But yeah, it's overwhelming, especially when you can still see the people just shuffling around like they're still there.
I mean, you guys are in West Virginia at that time. Maybe if you ever get back there, have you guys thought about going to Gettysburg?
That is
It's on
our
a bucket list. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just, the way, like the stuff that you can see, that's why I'm just thinking, I could see, I would love to, even if it's like, I would love to time it out to where I could be up there with you too, because that's one of the things I want to go there. And there's been many accounts of people going, you hear cannon fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You hear rifle fire. You hear even, I think it was Ghost Adventures. They had an episode where they went there and they saw a Confederate soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't? It's probably a really hard question to answer. Why can't not normal people? You can see the ghosts and interactions. If I go with you, I don't have that. Why is that? What is that makes us different?
So I actually think that everyone can. It's developing not even the ability. I think everyone has the ability to do it. It's just learning how to tune into it, learning how to cultivate it. We're all born with these abilities. Kids, think about little kids. They interact with imaginary friends or what have you. A lot of times, I think they're actually seeing spirits. We're born with these abilities. Ingo Swann talked about the fact that we have these bioreceptors in our bodies, that we're picking up these frequencies, and really spirit is just energy. So it's a frequency that we can pick up. When I say that I see them, what I'm seeing is something being projected into my mind's eye. So I'm not like seeing something out there. And I think that's the trick. The practice of it is recognizing that when you get an image or an imprint in your mind's eye, trust what you're seeing, what you're getting. We're so quick to dismiss it and think, oh, that's just my imagination, which I did for years. And many people do. Many people who are very psychic really think that, it's just my imagination. So I mentor people and train them how to tune into those abilities.
You do?
Because I think we all have them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, another thing that I wanted to touch on a little bit as well is like basically like your inner sense, like your conscience tell you, you know what I'm saying? That's like, I think that could be a spirit as well. Like your conscience tells you Don't do that. And you see the bad thing that's going to happen before you do it, and then you do it like pow, you smack into a mailbox or something. But your conscience told you back up. No, you're not going to make that. But you're like, oh no, I got it. So you're not like actually seeing the spirit, but the spirit in your mind is telling you, hey, you're not going to make that. But you try it anyways. And at the end, you're like, dude, I should have listened to my inner spirit or my inner mind tell me that wasn't going to go well. So I mean, I think that is that a part of being like a medium as well, or that's just something that everybody has. What you're touching on, as far as just being, just knowing certain things.
That's a great question. That's part of a natural, intuitive ability that we all have. They've actually done these experiments, Chris, where they'll have somebody sit in front of a screen and they'll flash pictures, and they'll monitor their heart rate. And the heart rate will increase seconds before they flash like a really violent or gruesome picture. And they've determined that we can actually perceive things seconds before they happen. So I think that ties back into these biosensors that Ingo Swann and, the work that they did with Project Stargate, Russell Targ. They identified that our body is basically a biological antenna. And, it's a shame that we're taught that we only have these 5 senses, because there's so much more out there than the 5 senses. But yeah, we all have these abilities. Listening to I actually wrote a book called Living the Intuitive Life, Cultivating Extraordinary Awareness, that just teaches you how to use these abilities that we all have.
Like we have a really sacred place here where it's like a psychic medium camp. There's a hotel. It's called Casadega. We were supposed to we're going to make a trip there soon. And they say in the hotel that you can actually smell women's perfume. You can smell a man's cigar walking through the lobby. And it's a no smoking establishment. So you can smell a cigar, and there's mediums. It's supposed to be a line of energy vibration that passed through there. Have y'all ever visited a spot that had that energy line, like vibration that passed through there? And what kind of senses did you all receive?
So we've been to some of the big ones like Sedona, Arizona, which is a vortex. Like I said, we've had a portal. For some reason, Tonya and I wind up in areas with portals. Either portals are everywhere, and we're just tuned to that particular frequency. But the web library was one. Yeah. So there was a spirit there, Dr. Thompson. He had doctor's offices there. He loved it. His family had owned it before another man bought it and put a factory and then a library and doctor's offices and all there. And he's sort of the custodian of the place. And you could smell his cherry pipe tobacco.
Wow.
So that's
cool.
Yeah, we had a really unique opportunity. It culminated in our first book, which is Watch Out for the Hallway. But 75 nights we went in there, 150 hours, and we took over 500 guest investigators. Probably about 5 of them were medium, psychic, sensitives, people who didn't know that they had those abilities. And it's such a psychic battery for a lot of different reasons. The architecture, it's near the water. There's a radio station, hospital, a lot of trauma, over the years. Did you guys know, just a little factoid, 350 ships, mostly oil tankers, were sunk off the coast of North Carolina in the first 2 years of World War II by German U-boats.
I didn't know that. I mean, I knew there's a lot of boats that were sunk, because that was huge. You went out there, you basically had a 50-50 shot of surviving.
Right. And this building was a triage for the overspill of the hospital across the way. So it's just a perfect storm, this building. The architecture's created a portal. MUFON and New Fork have recorded, some nights we were investigating, we saw an interdimensional being. And 3 nights later, independently, a UFO was reported right over basically the library, the inlet the library's on. But we would smell, we'd get that wood chip smell in the back.
Cinnamon was a big one.
Cinnamon was a big one. The woman you crossed over in the Historical Society in Pennsylvania,
curry.
That was curry. And the other woman and her granddaughter smelled curry and lavender.
Wow. Okay.
Perfume, lavender perfume.
Yeah.
So, Tony, are you a psychic medium as well, or just?
Yes, I am.
Tonya.
No.
What? So I've been thinking about this question for a little bit. Why our bodies are just bodies? What controls our bodies is brains. How come we don't do more research on the brain? Obviously, with CTE, you see too much damage to the brain, you mess it up. Why are we doing? We're just spending money on stupid research projects. We need to dwell into the brain. Obviously,
Hey, shrimps on a treadmill is important scientific research, sir.
no. I just feel like my father passed away 2010 when I was 15. I still want to talk to him, and everybody wants to talk to their loved ones and stuff. Why can't we do that? You know, it's like, it's weird. It's a touchy subject, but
Yeah, I'll pick up and then pass that part to you,
Sure.
which I know what you're going to say. So we need to be doing studies of the brain. So another thing that I'm really looking at right now for another book that I'm writing is channeling. Channeling fascinates me because I'm an actor. So I can look at these folks and go, okay, body gesture can change. You can change your voice. You can even change your face. If you think at actors that play like themselves and their evil twin or whatever, there's little tricks that you can do to completely change the energy and your facial expressions, the glint in your eye. But there's this guy, Daryl Anka, who channels someone named Bashar, who's this interdimensional traveler, bro. And the way that comes out of his mouth without a breath and these complicated sentences, I'm a writer too. I really think that there's something to that. And they are doing tests now on the brain. Some neurologists are. And those brains are behaving, of these channelers while they're channeling, are behaving differently. And once the people have channeled, their brains are different. And I would think that Tonya's brain scans would be different than other people. The other thing that I wanted to say before I pass it over to you, we need to be looking at the heart too. Yeah. The heart is 5,000 times more powerful. It's electrical signal. And the heart has a brain, quote unquote, and I'm not a scientist. And the heart sometimes picks up these sensor things before the brain even does. So we do need to do a lot more. But I think going back to government control, they don't want people developing factor X. Yeah, if you're developing factor X, then you're taking the, I grew up Roman Catholic, and you have to make a sacrament to go in and talk to the priest. I was the kid who went, why can't I just talk to God direct, right? You told me that God is everywhere at all times. First of all, he knows what I've done, right? He knows if you've been sleeping, knows if you're awake. So if I go in and go, oh, I'm really sorry that I did this and I won't do it again, God knows, man. Like, save me a trip. That was just my mind. And I think that's why you're not a good candidate. You're not a good candidate. You're
not a good candidate. You're not.
No, when I went for first confession, I was like, okay, it's blah, blah, blah. So tell me your sins. And I'm like, hey, dinosaurs and Adam and Eve. Can you kind of explain that to me? Like, we're in trouble with this kid. They're like, out of the darkness, I hear, 10 years old? And I hear, it's a matter of faith, Joseph. And I go, screw that, I'm out of here. I don't want to hear it. So, but Tonya, about like, you're an intermediary. Like, you have lots of clients that you help them contact their loved ones.
I mean, I did want to say there are a lot of consciousness studies going on. And I think in the realm of quantum physics, they're going to get closer to more and more. They're finding that consciousness isn't in the brain. They don't know where it is. They can't identify a place in the brain where consciousness actually resides. And I've thought for a long time it's because it's not in the brain. It's outside of that. And so there are a lot of people doing the studies at Heart Math Institute in California. But it's just that a lot of this stuff, like Joey said, it's not mainstream. So that's what needs to happen. This stuff needs to get more mainstream. But back to what you said about, your loved one passes over and why can't we communicate? Really, our loved ones, they're around us all the time after they pass, and they are trying to communicate. One of the most frequent times that people get communications from their loved ones is right after they pass. So many people have stories, right? Oh, I had a dream, or this, you won't believe this thing happened. When my mom passed 2 years ago, I was like, well, I'm a medium, so I can still talk to her. So, I was on the plane headed out to Arkansas for her funeral, and I was connecting with her, and she was showing me this little pink journal. And I said, okay, Mom, when I get to your house, I'll look for the journal, see what you're trying to show me here. So I get out to my dad's house. Of course, he's completely bereaved, and I'm trying to help him put things in order. And I'm looking for this pink journal, spiral bound journal, and I found it. And I open it up, and it's blank pages. But I'm like, no, she showed this to me for a reason. I mean, it had a rose on it. It was very distinct. I knew this was the one. And in the very middle of the book, she had written a note to me. It was like she knew she was going to die. And she said, Tonya, these are the things I want at my funeral. Oh, wow. And it was like she wanted pink roses, she wanted lilies, she wanted music from Braveheart. It was all these things that she wanted. And just like all these crazy like synchronicities around that happened. And I knew it was her as we were planning the funeral. Like one of the things was the funeral director was like, well, let me show you the caskets in here. And, you know, my dad had a budget because he was using my mom's life insurance money to pay for the funeral, which, you know, you guys probably know they're not, you know, it's expensive funerals. So he's like, well, we have this really plain, and it was this plain, like almost like a pine box casket. And he goes, but then we also have this one. And it's this beautiful like casket lined with satin and pink roses. I mean, it was exactly like what she talked about. And I was like, okay, that's crazy. And then everywhere I went, like lilies were showing up. And then just real quick, this funny thing happened after my mom passed. We moved my dad just up the street from us.
Yep.
Like literally like 5 houses down the street. So
if you're married, you'll appreciate this.
Yeah.
So my mom always, you know, had strong opinions about things. And my dad's here for a few months or whatever. And we would have him over like once a week. Sometimes we wouldn't have him every week, you know. All of a sudden, pieces of my dad's silverware start apporting in my silverware drawer. Huh? So I'd be like, all right, this is Dad's butter knife, because I knew the pattern on the silverware.
It's different than ours.
And it didn't match with ours. And I'd take it over. I'd be like, Dad, is this your fork? You know, and he'd be like, yeah, how'd they get over at your house? It wasn't like when he was coming to have dinner with us, he was bringing his own silverware. You know?
It was a message from my mother-in-law. You need to have him over for dinner more. I'm even giving you his silverware. I went to put stuff away, and I'm like, what is this butter knife with the rose on the handle? We don't own this. Tanya's like, oh, that's my dad's butter knife. We're like, Mom, we're busy. We're doing the best we can.
Yeah. You know, that happened with me too. When my dad passed away, several, like even my sister, I think she's watching, you know, the week after, back in the day, I say back in the day, I'm young, but like when your home phones couldn't call long distance. And my uncle lived in Tampa, so both home phones were on the hook, and he got a call from the house. We're like, that's weird, whatever. And then he got a call from my dad's phone, which was in the drawer, battery out of the phone. He was freaking out. And it was just constant things. And then one point, my mom was in the laundry room, doing laundry, lots of noise. I'm in my bedroom, and we both heard the same exact like sound. Vibration, like the same sound, and we said, "Did you hear that crash? Like, what crash?" She goes, "It sounded like Christmas tree balls breaking." And my mom was like, "Well, your dad broke Christmas tree when he was younger." I was like, "What the hell?" Just several things. That's what got me when I was younger. I'm like, "Is he trying to contact us?" And it was and we were all fighting. We just lost a loved one. And my sister wanted to storm out the house, and she couldn't. The door would not unlock at all. Even my uncle was on the outside trying to open it. He couldn't open it. I was like, what the hell is going on, And what Julie posted, talk to your dad in your head. That makes sense, because when 2000, I was going through like a religion class, something like that. It wasn't like religion, but it was like ancient history around the world. And the teacher said, all right, we're gonna spend 30 minutes just sit in a corner and we're gonna play soft music and go someplace. Even when I went to I imagined where I was. I'm bouncing back and forth, but I imagined just on a beach. And it was crazy. I droned everything else out. And then I came back. And then went on a youth retreat. We said, he's like, go find yourself, spend about 45 minutes. We were out in Tallahassee. I was on a lake. There's boats, jet skis. After 20 minutes, I didn't hear anything. And I'm like, it is crazy how much the mind you can control with your mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's unreal, man.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can ask for a sign, ask to be surprised. That's what some people say. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Send me a sign and send it. But all the classic things happen. The door that won't open. That's pretty much a trope.
Like, we
the
just
phone
straight to the bedroom, and the battery was out. There's no possible way that, and a home phone, both of them on the hook, and you can't call long. Back in the day, Tampa was long distance. You can't call long distance. Just all these things. I'm like, what is going on? But he was trying to tell us stop fighting. You know, like there's no need to fight right now.
Right.
Right.
We were having a Skype dinner with a colleague. He's Tonya didn't train him, but this guy, I think he's Craig. I think he's going to be a guest on the show in September. He's trying to get the day off. He was hit by a car. He was a military veteran. He saw serious combat action. Serious combat action. He was hit by a car. The woman panicked and backed over him after she hit him. He died. He died twice. Once on the operating table and once in ICU. And when he woke up, they put him on the 5th floor because something had changed in his brain, his mind, his energy, something. Maybe he had died twice, so that door had opened. And this stuff was coming at him rapid. Like Tonya taught him how to control it. He draws these things. He's seen spectral MIB, draws them. He was attacked one night. We were in the library and we had a strict rule. You don't go off by yourself because you're vulnerable. Just like if you were camping in the woods. Craig, I was really flattered what you said about the way we do things. We hear that we've created a paranormal Bill of Rights now, and we're really trying to, we're trying to mainstream our techniques because to get away from some of the reality TV stuff. But he went off by himself, and he was scratched through his shirt, like you see on TV. Yeah, 3 like nails scratched about 3 inches right in a parallel line because he was vulnerable. They knew he was there. They drew his curiosity. But he had, all of a sudden we're talking and he says, oh man, the phone is ringing again. And he has this yellow rotary phone, analog phone. It's not plugged in, no wires. His grandmother, who's been dead a decade or more, she calls him on this phone during working hours. And then he'll say, Grandma, I'm busy. Like he'll literally pick it up and he'll say, Grandma, I'm busy. I'm working. I'll call you back. And then she gets kind of snitty and he'll try to call her back and he gets a busy signal. He gets a busy signal on this yellow analog phone that it can't work. There's no more analog, right? Yeah. And it's not plugged in, nothing. And he's like, guys, what do I do? And I said, say to your grandma, please call me at 7:00 on Sunday night. I promise I'll pick up. I'll have no distractions. I'll talk to you. So we're waiting to hear if that worked. So yeah, phones are nothing but frequency signals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think your dad was just trying to say it's cool. I'm all right. We're just real quick because I know we're going over and all, but we got asked to investigate for a woman whose daughter. It was tragic. She was like a student, soccer star. When she was 16, she had back surgery, was given prescription painkillers, got hooked on opioids, ran with the wrong crowd, went into rehab, got out of rehab. The old boyfriend called, oh, please, I want to see you. She went to see him against her mom's. 2 days later, she shows up. As it turns out, a half an hour from where we live. Very weird. Not even a half. Because Tonya had met her. 10 minutes. Her body naked, beaten on the side of the road. So we were asked. There's a podcast that's out. American Refugee. The guy came with us. Spirit Box. All of that goes through the whole thing. The interesting thing is when we went to the site, she was there communicating with Tonya, and she said, "By the time I have no connection to where they left my body." I was gone. I was out. This has no meaning for me whatsoever. I was already gone.
Wow.
That was really interesting. The cool part is they're going to try to reopen the investigation. We got enough information about who the culprits were and the circumstances.
Wow.
That would be, and I say that with humility, because we just fell into it.
Oh no,
Like, yeah. But yeah, she's got enough transcripts from us and communications. I think they're going to reopen. But yeah, the minute that they leave the body, for some, and for some, they're stuck in that place where the trauma happened. So they're as unique as we are.
Well, here, I'll do it for you. How cool will that be if you guys are responsible for helping open up this case and solving it? So you don't have to brag. I'll do it
Craig,
for you.
get out of
How
here.
cool would that be?
So, hey Tonya, not to throw you on the spot, we're having such a really great time. If you took a look at all three of our energies, what would you capture? Not to throw you on the spot. Just
Oh, no, that's fine. So I'll start with Craig because he's in the upper left-hand corner there, and I'll just kind of go around clockwise. So just looking at Craig's energy, there's a lot of green in your energy field. So green is, associated with the heart chakra. So I would also associate it just from what I'm picking up that you are very naturally empathic. So that you're probably the type of person when you are around other people, you kind of just immediately get a sense of what they're feeling. I feel like you could probably easily get into rapport with other people, meaning you just kind of like what you were talking about with Joey, you just can click with certain people because you naturally empathic and can pick up on where they're at. You may also be overwhelmed in large crowds. Empaths are often, they have a hard time being in large crowds of people, or places like Walmart, for example, where there's just a lot of fluorescent lights and just a lot of different kinds of energy in there. And I do get a sense that you just have a strong sense of like clear cognizance, which is just like a clear knowing. So your ability, what I pick up is that you just kind of know things. You know things, you just don't know how you know them. They just kind of pop in and you're like, I don't know how I know this, but I just do. I just know it.
That's crazy because that is actually that all of a sudden it just all
we call him the beard of knowledge. He's the beard of knowledge. He's the wonder.
No, that's awesome. Thank you. No, that's because there is if there's it's kind of the thing. It's like you said, the crowds. It's like for me, it's like big groups, like sporting events, not that big of a deal. But if it's something like a party where everybody's in the same room, there's like 20 or 30 people. It's like it's like I can't focus. It's like I keep getting pulled, all over the place. It's like I can't, it's like I don't know. You almost look like you're one of those weird psychos. It's just like looking around.
Yeah.
No wonder we hit it off.
Yeah.
That's exactly. When I was in college, I knew a guy who could read auras, and people would just come to me for advice, and they'd come sit on the bed. I'm like an 18-year-old kid. I have no idea who the hell I am. And like people are lining up to go ask Joey. He seems to know like everything. And mostly I just listen. So that kind of explains it because he's like, you have this real green aura and it just attracts people. Like they come to you and like they've known you for 2 seconds and they tell you their life story, which as a storyteller is cool. But go ahead, continue your work.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So Austin.
You should ask his permission.
Yeah, I should ask your permission. I just assume since.
Oh no, I love it. I love this.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, there's a bug.
That's okay, no worries. So you have a lot of yellow actually in your energy field. Yellow is associated with the solar plexus energy center, which is just sort of between where the rib cage separates, just above the navel. And solar plexus is all about identity, self-actualization, individual power, individuation. So I get a sense too of you being very creative. And what I'm seeing when I look at you is like they're showing me like I don't know. There's like all these different projects. I feel like you may like start something, and then you're over here, and then they're showing me like over here. So there's like all these things. You just have a lot of different interests, and I feel like you lose interest quickly in something, and then you're always thinking you're going to get back to the thing, and then like oftentimes you don't. So that's what they're showing.
Bronco in your
the Ford Bronco.
Ford Bronco.
Bronco's in the shop right now. Okay. That's awesome.
I do want to say, is it okay if I share with you that I was seeing someone around you earlier, and I thought I'd wait till after the show because I didn't want to put you on the spot. But since you guys asked, there is a gentleman behind you that I was seeing earlier. It was when you were talking about your dad. I don't know if it's your dad, but it is a gentleman who, to me, it looks like he would be, I don't know, late 40s, early 50s. He's got a purple shirt on, and anytime they show me clothing, it's because it was either be like a favorite color or something that they would be known for. So if it doesn't sound like anybody you know, it doesn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. I always say don't try to make things fit. Sometimes what'll happen is you'll find out, within a day or so or a week later. You'll be like, oh yeah, I know exactly who that was or whatever. But he has like a purple sort of like button-down shirt with a collar. And his hair is sort of salt and pepper. If I could say who he looked like, I can't think of, like, I usually like try to think of an actor or somebody, but he looks like Uncle Robert, but that doesn't mean anything to you.
Well, Uncle Robert looks a little like Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, sort of kind of like, nah, not really. No. Not really like that. But anyway, not sure because I'm not getting a real clear. Sometimes I'll get a real clear connection and I'm not. I'm just kind of seeing them standing there. So could even be somebody who followed you home and is just curious about you. I'm not sure. But there is that person standing there with you. But as far as your aura, there's a lot of creativity in there. There's a lot of interest. So keep on being creative.
We gotta finish the project, so.
Have you ever, before you get to me, you got my permission. Have you ever heard of walking in the house backwards? That's something I adopt. I walk in the house backwards. It's because the spirits, they supposedly get on your back. So if you walk in the house backwards, you kind of throw the spirits off.
Wow.
Is that something you've ever heard of?
I haven't, but I'm going to have to research that. Yeah.
Research that, and we'll have you back on. But that's something a spirit guide a while ago told me. When you enter your premises from somewhere, enter backwards. Turn around. So I always enter backwards.
That's very cool.
That is very
Another
cool.
tool for the toolbox.
Yeah, awesome. So you say one of your spirit guides shared that with you?
Yeah, spirit guide told me that. So that's how I usually enter the house.
That's very cool. All right, so just checking in with your energy. So you have this really cool sort of, it was almost like a prism of different colors kind of coming out from your heart center. And what it's giving me is that you're a deeply spiritual person, but that you don't follow any particular, what I'm getting is there's no particular dogma that you follow. You almost like take from here and sort of make things your own. I do get that there's certain they're using the word ritual, but I feel like, again, these might be rituals that you've established for yourself. Like you may establish a certain object as being very sacred for you, or a certain way of doing something that, again, is like a sacred ritualistic way of doing something for you. But also what they're giving me is many, many lifetimes for you. So that you were probably one of the little kids that people called an old soul. And they are actually showing me you as a little kid. And like, maybe this is your grandmother, but some of your, elders in your family, just like being astounded by things that you would say. Like they literally show me their mouths just like dropping open, and you would just drop this knowledge on them and they'd be like, what? And they just kind of show me that from you as a very young child. So many, many lifetimes. And I don't often get this, but I'm feeling, I don't know if you feel a connection with Hawaii, but they're giving me Hawaii as would have been one of your past lifetimes.
Wow, that's actually crazy. I love Hawaii. I've never been there. And my wife actually wants to go to Hawaii for her 40th birthday. That is like so crazy to me. But yeah, I do dibble and dabble in different religions, and I have so much with the Christianity, not to knock it, but I put different stuff into play on how I think it should fit in life, and that's basically. Craig knows I talk to him about different things. I mean, me and Austin don't talk as much, but we're podcast brothers. We see each other at work, but me and Craig is like the oldest one. We're 35, 25, and 45. So Craig is like the one I go to most, but I dibble and dabble in different religions and I put different stuff together. And that was like right on spot for me. And then people tell me I have an old soul because all I hang out with is a lot of old people. And people like, you have an old soul to be so young. I'm only 35, but I act older. But don't get me wrong, I'm immature sometimes. Craig has to say, get off that ledge, Chris. You're on the ledge. But that was amazing. Wow.
If I was able to show you a picture of my father, would you be able to like recognize it? Like you said, the salt and pepper kind of thing.
Yeah. If you had a picture of him, I could tell you.
It's a long shot, but like I don't remember him in a purple shirt. But I mean, you kind of nailed him. Salt and peppery kind of.
Yeah.
You know what? That does look like my Uncle Robert.
Yeah, that's how the hair is.
That's where Austin, you can ask your mom or somebody else and say, purple shirt, dad, anything. It might have been maybe there's an old picture or.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, this is my sister's wedding. I was like, maybe purple shirt. No, I don't know. I'm just trying to remember purple.
Well, and sometimes what it'll be is like maybe it wasn't literally a purple shirt, but the color purple. He's putting two things together to be efficient with his communication. So it may be like, okay, I wore button-down shirts, but purple was really important.
My sister said purple is a mom's favorite color. I forgot.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Forgot about that. All right, I'm gonna cry. We gotta shut the show down.
That would be it. That's awesome.
It astonishes me doing this work how efficient they are over there.
Yeah.
So like, I'm gonna show myself in my button-down shirt, my hair, show them a face that's gonna be recognizable, so I can translate that, and I'm going to acknowledge my wife too by making the shirt purple. Yeah. And it happens instantaneously, and that just blows me away because I'm a systems guy. Like when I used to work in offices, I systems flow and all that, and they are so efficient, right? They're
very efficient. Yeah. It's real. Sometimes it's just kind of funny the ways that they come through with this so creative. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you all know how energy work. I don't know if I have to apologize to you, but I just feel like I want to say sorry that we didn't get to the alien abductions and stuff. We touched on it, but we went off on a weird tangent. But I love it. We had a great show, and I just want to say I apologize. It was excellent, but I just want to say I apologize if we didn't get to where y'all really wanted to touch on. But
no apology needed.
Energy flowed us in a different way, and we went around and we came back.
Yeah.
Hey,
we get to happen the way they're meant to.
Yeah, we get to captain our ship every Friday at 2 Eastern Standard Time. Little plug for the show, thank you. But no, it's nice to just go where you guys want to go. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had a great time.
If y'all ever in the Central Florida area, don't hesitate to shoot us an email, shoot us a message, and you're always welcome back on our show.
Thank you. We're actually hopefully in January we're moving back to the Crystal Coast in North Carolina, so we won't be that far away from you.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
And Manson Mitchell are in they're in Western Florida, so yeah, you may just see us.
Definitely, we'd love to. Maybe have a dinner.
So everybody needs to go to Facebook, Into the Outer Realms. Go to that page right now, like that. You follow that thing, that you're going to get an automatic notification letting you know about their show, and their show is fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got. I'm going to show a couple of things here. We're going to plug for you. It's just we got a couple books here. This is that one you talked about. Watch Out for the Hallway, and that was the haunted library one. That do not go by yourself. We learned that. So, wrap up show. What did we learn today, folks? And then you didn't talk about this, but I'm gonna plug these things.
Oh, thank you.
You are a self-described pirate aficionado, sir.
I am a professional pirate. It happened in North Carolina, and I've written books, but I have a one-man show, and I play. I got my my branding on today
Nice.
with the
I like
beard.
it.
I said to
That's
Tonya,
cool.
we're the one with the beard. But yeah, I play a Scottish pirate named Angus MacGregor. From the 1700s, he sailed with Blackbeard, and yeah, I fell into it, and it's a trip. So now I have all these books out. There's that new one that you showed is coming out in October.
Yeah. Now, are you going to get the other one back in print? Because is it still available? Because where I looked at it said out of stock.
They should be able to print it on demand. Do you remember where that was?
I think
The first pirate book it was?
Yeah, we all be Jacobites here.
Yeah, well, that's good that it's sold out, but they should be getting new copies soon.
Yeah, it was just the site that I found the picture on was Thrift Books.
Oh, okay. They're out of stock. Well, that's okay. That's good news. Yep.
So,
Go to Amazon, folks. That's your best bet. Go right to Amazon.com and they'll fulfill your order. But that's cool.
yep. So, like I said, wanted to definitely plug those, and then
Thank you.
You guys are on. Is it 2 internet radio shows?
Yes. So yeah, we're very lucky. KGRA, the big boys. That is Tuesday nights overnight at 2 a.m. They play whatever our live stream. They play the audio the following Tuesday night. And then, folks, if you haven't had enough of us, at 10 o'clock tonight on ERRT Radio is Into the Outer Realms Revisited. And those are our oldest shows. And Brian Seach, who's a very knowledgeable cryptozoologist, they're going to be replaying our 90-minute interview with him tonight on ERRT Radio. So we were really lucky. We've been syndicated, I guess, sort of.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, it off air. Like I said, because I don't like to get all the I don't want all the groupies showing up at your guys' place. So I'll get your information off of there because we'll send we'll send you a little sample.
Oh well, thank you.
Yeah, it's from there, and for anybody that's it's pretty cool. It's all essential oils, all natural. So
Awesome.
Well, one more thing. If you all had a great show, please plug us on your IG, Facebook. Please share your interviews so your people can see it as well as our followers, whatever. Please make sure you share us if you had a great interview. We'd love
It's
it.
all about it tomorrow. We'll be sharing it everywhere.
We sure
That's
will.
awesome.
if you guys,
All right.
and personally, like Tonya, I want to thank you for that because that's something that's been on Austin's bucket list for a while. Is he's been wanting to get something like that to where get some connection with his dad. And I mean, as me, I was getting a little teary just watching it because I knew how important that was to him.
Yeah, that's very important to him.
Just on air, I want to personally thank you for for doing that. Sharing that gift with all of us because that was amazing. I mean, I truly heartfelt. I can't thank you enough for doing that for him. I mean, that meant a lot.
Well,
And
I'm
also-
honored to be able to, connect people with their loved ones. That's why I love doing what I do.
And also, do you have a link for some people to plug you as far as you do medium work for them? If you want to plug that, you can go ahead and plug that so they can contact you if they need any work done as well.
Yes, thank you. I do. So you can find me on Facebook. It's just my name, Tonya Madia, and then the letters. Those are my different certifications: RYT, RMT, LMT. That's my professional Facebook page, and people can just private message me there, and I'll be happy to schedule a reading or anyone who's interested in doing a mentorship training to learn how to use their abilities because we all have them.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm not going to lie. This was an awesome journey into the outer realms. I can't speak for the guys, but I'm pretty sure they're going to have no problem. If you guys are willing, we would love to have you back on. Not only talk about Mothman, we'll talk about we'll have these free for alls. If you guys are ever available, it's
Anytime.
I would love to.
Yeah,
We had a great
just reach
time.
out when you have a slot and we'll fill it.
Yeah.
And just for you guys know, you guys are also the owners of the largest episode we've ever done. So this is the longest we've ever gone.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
you're number one. Awesome. Well, you guys have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Like I said, just message
Thank
me
you.
Your address, and I'll get that. I'll have Kelly send you a sample thing for you there.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Your
you.
show's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
you. You guys
Peace.
We had a great time.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we'll wrap this up quickly here. That was brought to you by Broad's Beard Care, premium beard oil. Use promo code 3beers with a capital B. You're going to save 20% off. Nanny Cakes, 407-923-2898. Go to 3beerspodcast.com, patreon.com/3beerspodcast. Become a member. Help us out. Go check us out on social media. Like, subscribe on YouTube. Get this thing out here. Share this with people. Great episode. Tonya, Joey, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we will talk to you guys later on. Everybody have a great night. Thank you for everybody for watching.
Thank you.